Thank you, everybody, for joining us for webinar number 6 of 8, Creating a Killer Proposal. So this is the 6th part of our 2020 webinar series, which is a repeat of the optimal ad sales process series we did in 2019, but it's a little more polished. We went ahead and made some changes to the material and also improved some areas. And this one, we have a really nice improvement on our proposal template, which we're going to see a little bit later. So let's just quickly review where we came from. First, we went over the competition. This was about 6 or 7, 8 weeks ago. Went over our competition, Facebook, Google, etc. When we're going to head out and start selling some campaigns, we really want to take a look at who it is that we're competing with. So Facebook and Google are the obvious ones, but then we have local competitors. What are they doing? What can we do to be better at it? Right. And the proposal is a big part of that. Packaging and pricing, what are we putting into our different packages? What are we charging? Different things factor into that. How much we need to exist, how much we need for this to all be worth it at the end of the year. But also it's important to take a look at our competitors' pricing as well. Methodology, using a CRM, getting the meeting. So finally, we're getting into the actual sales piece. What does it take to actually get someone to give us 15, 20 minutes of their time to discuss a potential marketing campaign? And then last time we discussed the actual meeting. So the meeting is where we might be on a phone call, we might be on a screen share, something virtual, or we might meet the potential advertiser in person. This is where we're doing a lot of information gathering, probably doing more listening than talking, but we are going to explain a little bit about ourselves and what makes us different. And a lot of what happened in that meeting is going to go into our proposal, which we're going to focus on today. We're going to talk about why the proposal is so important. And there are probably some things you might not have thought of as to why the proposal is powerful. And for a long time, I didn't really see the need for proposals. And it was only in the last few years where I came around and saw how powerful they can really be. Next week, we're going to discuss closing. So getting somebody who's on the fence, just getting them on board as a paying customer. And then we're going to wrap up the last few segments into renewals. So as we move through this, if you do have any questions, just go ahead and use that Zoom webinar chat as opposed to I know there's a question and answer functionality that a few people have used the last couple times around. Just use that Zoom webinar chat. I like to keep an eye on it. And Annette and Tiffany on our team also keeps an eye on it and can go ahead, provide any links that you might need, supply any answers to questions you might have. And we'll just keep an eye on that throughout the webinar. Today, we have Annette Batson, the all-star sales rep from BaristaNet, as always, joining us to lend her expertise. So if you have any questions for myself and Annette, again, just find that Zoom webinar chat. 10 advantages. If you're unaware, if you somehow missed it, all of these webinars, 10 advantages. What are your advantages as an independent publisher? When you're a smaller publisher, you're much more agile than the big guys, and that becomes one of the things that you have to use to your advantage. So 10 advantages outlines your 10 advantages when you are a smaller and more agile publisher in ad sales. So thank you, Tiffany, for linking that. And then for next week, closing the deal. So if you go to information.broadstreetads.com/webinar schedule, you'll see all of our webinars lined up, but those last two, closing the deal, and we'll have Web Publisher Pro from joining us on that. So we have David, Web Publisher Pro, potentially Lori from Web Publisher Pro joining us on that to chime in as well. And then on the last call, we might have Locable, Brian from Locable, for those of you who are familiar with Locable, joining us for the renewals part of the webinar series. So today, let's talk about what is the purpose of a proposal and what does a good proposal look like. And we have a proposal template that we're going to show you toward the end. We had one last year, but this one we got redesigned. It looks really good. I think it's something that I really doubt your competition would be bringing to their advertisers. So an overview of today. Quickly, we'll review what we discussed last time, what happened at the meeting. So we'll get up to speed on that. Why create a proposal in the first place? What are the goals of a proposal? What goes in it? And then we'll take a look at that example. So let's review. So at the meeting, our goal isn't to sell. And I know that's the reason we're doing all of this, right? We do want to get paying customers on board because that's what we need to do to keep this business humming. But we need to kind of take a step back and say, okay, I do want to sell, but that's not really why the advertiser is going to work with me, right? They're working with me because they want to be successful with their marketing goals, whether they know what those are, or they aren't initially. So every business owner in the world knows that they have to do some kind of marketing. They need to get people in the door, and they probably don't do enough of it. In fact, most business owners are usually overwhelmed with the day-to-day, putting out fires, doing a lot of things that are not marketing. So even though it's one of those things they know they have to do, they don't do it. And they would probably hire someone to do it for them, meaning you, if they feel like that person can do a sufficient job. So it becomes your goal to learn about their business as much as you can about it, figure out what has worked, what hasn't worked in the past, put together a marketing plan for them, something that they can look at and say, okay, this looks reasonable. I'm willing to spend $300, $500, $1,000 a month, whatever it is with you, and work with you. And we do that meeting because, again, it's hard to help somebody if we don't know what they need. We don't just want to sell someone an ad and we say like, oh, you should support us, and that's not the way this works. How can you help them achieve what it is that they want to achieve with their business? How can you help them marketing their business, get their message out, et cetera? So it's hard to help someone if you don't know what they need. I use this analogy a lot. It's kind of like being a doctor prescribing something without really doing a diagnosis or knowing what the symptoms are. So we really want to understand the needs of that business first. The other thing is that we want to take it slow, right? We don't want to just reach out to someone and say, hey, you should work with us, buy an ad. That's like, it's a little too much. If you take it slower, they get a chance to learn about you, you learn about them. It's a much smoother approach. And I find that the end close rate tends to be higher. So at the end of the meeting, right, we talked about where we kind of segue in from this meeting into the proposal piece. So at the end of a meeting, we said something like, okay, I can put together a proposal that addresses the best type of ads, best practices, placement, length of the campaign, the pricing, all of that. Pretty much everything that we talked about today, I will outline in a document. I'll make some recommendations, what I think would really be helpful for you. From there, you can make the decision as to whether you think it makes sense to work with me. And if you do, give us the green light. Then that campaign will go live. We'll get it up and running within the next 3 weeks, and et cetera. So what we're doing here is transition and saying, okay, now we're at a place where I think I can make some really good recommendations for you, but this is how it's going to work if you do move forward. So what we're trying to do is like move into that proposal, which we're probably going to say yes to. And me and Annette discussed this last time. Annette just likes to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to create a proposal for you. Whereas I'm more of like, I like to ask, like, would it be all right? I like to get that confirmation from somebody as to whether they're going to, they're interested. But what we're also doing is clearing the fog a little bit, explaining about, what's going to come next. So at the end of an effective meeting, which is what we discussed last time, the client has learned about us, our vision, and importantly, what makes us different. We're going to reiterate that in our proposal. You understand the client's needs, right? This is all that stuff that they said they were interested in or what didn't work last time. This is all going to go into our proposal. We're going to figure out their approximate budget, their marketing objectives, and obviously confirm that they want to receive a proposal. More often than not, they will say, yes, absolutely, I'd like to see that. Now, they probably don't want to be put on the spot and asked to work with you right away, to purchase a campaign with you. But if you say, would you like a proposal, something they can look over, kind of let it stew, it's going to work out much better. So when you do that, should be a natural extension of the exploration process. Again, we're just taking little baby steps. And when they do say yes, or they do agree to move forward with that, then you say, okay, I'm going to have a proposal to you by Tuesday afternoon, Friday morning, whatever it is. But this is your opportunity to really just kind of demonstrate that you are who you say you are. You're one of those people who has it together and is likely to be a good person to work with them. So why a proposal? It does sound like some extra work, but there are a few really important items here. One is consistency, right? So that proposal is more or less the same document for everyone. There's a lot in that proposal that's not going to change, but it outlines the same process and makes the same pitch. And importantly, it says it better than you can. So if I asked most salespeople, what it is that they do, or most ad sales reps, like, why should I work with you? If I ask them 10 times over, they would probably say like generally the same thing in 10 different ways. Some ways would be better than others, and others would be, and anybody has that. If you're kind of put on the spot and you have to answer questions, sometimes what you're going to say is going to sound very thought out and articulate, and other times you're going to kind of stumble on your words. A proposal has a way of being very consistent and saying everything that you want to say the way that you want to say it every single time. So it's a document that outlines everything that you need to say in one place. So consistency is an critical ingredient of predictability and overall success. So we'll explain that in a second.
Can I also add something here that often you're talking to one person and rather rely on what those notes are that he's taken, or she, and she may need to win the approval of your proposal from a team of people, a higher up, colleagues, whatever. You want to make sure that message and that information that you've imparted to her is also presented to the whole team in that homogeneous way Kenny was talking about.
Right, exactly. So the next piece is clarity, right? So we outline exactly what we're going to do for a client, and it puts them at ease. If we have somebody, if we have a home contractor giving us an estimate and they say, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to put together a proposal. After that, we're going to, work with you to figure out what the right materials and the different items you need for this project is. And then we're going to do this, 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 and this. That gives you a very good idea of how this is going to work. It puts you at ease. Right. And that's the case for anyone who's about to spend money. They want to know after I give somebody this check or I agree to work with them, what's going to happen, right? Because nobody wants to waste their time, their money, et cetera. So in this proposal, we generally can provide a sense of clarity and also address any possible concerns, because as you're doing this, and you've done this a number of times, you start to figure out what are the things that people tend to have questions about, what are the hangups that they have. These are all things you can address in the proposal. So things that you definitely should address. What can I expect? Timeline, pricing, payment schedule. We'll go through the content of a proposal in a bit. But the other big part of a proposal is the repeatability and scalability. So when it's clear and consistent, all right, we get repeatability, meaning that we can more or less reuse this proposal template for somebody else. And when it's repeatable and we can keep reusing this proposal template, it generally means that it can be delegated. So imagine that you have an assistant on the team or a sales rep or somebody who does these proposals. That means you can leave a sales meeting and you can talk to maybe someone on your team and say, okay, hey, we're going to need a proposal for this business. Can you get it all prepped? And then I'll go ahead and modify any other content I need. But you know that the majority of that proposal is going to be the same thing it always was. And then you can fine tune it to a specific client. And with that becomes scalability, right? You can, if you were writing proposals one-off, like if you had 10 proposals to put together in a week and you didn't have a general template or a general system for doing this, that might take you the entire week. It might be a full-time job getting all of those proposals out. But when you get it down to a system and you have that repeatability, it's templated, you have that scalability, you could probably put out 10 proposals in a single day, if not half a day, right? So you get a lot of power with these proposals. It's consistent, it puts on a great pitch, and it's something that's worked very well for the companies I know who have put that into place. So the goals of a proposal, what are some of the things that we put in there? We tell who we are, right? We want to tell them our story. We want to be relatable. We want to explain our mission and the work that we do. And something that, especially if for our local news publishers in the audience, something that you can also do is bring yourself, your own personality out in the proposal. I know historically we're used to like kind of like in the New Jersey area, we have like the Star Ledger and the Asbury Park Press and, these like traditional news brands. But at the hyperlocal, what we really see working is that the hyperlocal publisher is more or less an influencer. It's them, the person that's important. And a lot of them will bring that out in their proposal and say, so-and-so is the publisher, has been doing this since 2006. Everybody knows who this person is. Bring that personality out. You are a local influencer, and bring your personal brand out there and make that part of your proposal. Very, very powerful. Then, of course, explain how the community benefits you, explain how you supported, and this is one of the biggest pieces, communicate how you are different, right? Digital advertising, some people have success with it. There are a lot of people who have felt burned by it in a few different ways. Outline how you are different. Those three things, and I love the rule of threes for people who have been in like speaking or persuasive writing. Three persuasive reasons that you are different than everyone else. And that can be a few different things, which we'll discuss in a bit, but you really want to outline those three things as why you're different. So just as an example, Broadstreet, we say that, we offer customer service, far and away the best in the industry, especially considering that there is practically no customer service in our industry to begin with, right? So ad serving, not known for customer service. So a big part of what we do is our customer service. We make sure that our customers are set up with best practices, always have someone to talk to, et cetera. The next thing is ad formats. The next thing is automated reporting. These are the three big things that we know separate. They can assume everything about us is the same to everyone else, but these are the three things you're going to get with us that you aren't going to get anywhere else. And there aren't a lot of competitors that do that. And it's been very effective. The other item is that it demonstrates that you care. So if you do put in those points that if a client did have, something that didn't work last time, number one, you're avoiding that. But if they express some interest in promoting an event or some kind of promotion they're doing, you working that into the actual proposal. So you want to be very clear that you listen to their needs, that you're solving their problem, that this is going to solve their problem, and you're taking a thoughtful approach to their business. And also, you want to demonstrate that you're legit, right? Because especially when we're starting out, if they were nice enough to give us the time to talk to them, we really want to come off as established, professional. We want to set clear expectations, and we want a simple, understandable idea of what happens if I move forward. How many times, and again, bringing it back to like a home contract or something like that, someone say they're going to come out for an estimate. They don't come out for an estimate. They say they're going to be here at noon. They don't show up, or they show up later in the day. This is almost like what we've come to expect. So if you can be that one person, right? That one person that has it together and is always on the ball and is always doing the things that they said they were going to do, right? That just sets you so far. All you have to do is do the things that you said you were going to do, and you're going to be ahead of most of the pack. So we want to really show that we're professional, that we took their concerns into account, et cetera. And that's what we're going to do in our proposal. So let's talk about the actual content. Again, your story. How did you get to where you are? Tell a little bit about your story, especially if you were the bootstrapped publisher who started their own business, because business owners like to hear the story of other business owners, because running a business is kind of a unique thing in itself. What's the larger mission for you? What is the reason that you started the business that you did, if you did start it, or if not, what's the mission of the organization? Why do your readers value you, and what is the evidence that they do? Your audience, and now we're getting into the actual numbers. There are two ways that you can make a decision. One is that you can be very rational. You can look at the stats, you can crunch the numbers and say, okay, this makes sense for me. And then there are other people who are going to make a decision, probably more on an emotional basis. And so they're going to say, they're really like you, they trust you, they're going to work with you. They could probably care less about what your actual numbers are, but there are the very rational types. And I probably lean toward this. I'm going to look at someone's traffic. I'm going to just decide if their audience is right for us. People come and they pitch conference sponsorships to Broadstreet all the time. And like, sometimes it makes sense. In most cases, it doesn't. And, this is how we're going to make our decision. But other times, if somebody makes in a pitch and say, hey, like, we think you'd be perfect, or if it's somebody that I know who started, their conference, they have a great vision for it, I might go the other way and work with them anyway. But you want to have the demographics, all that information in terms of your readership, your traffic, the age range, all that kind of stuff, if you have it, and put that into your proposal as well. And in our example proposal, we have some links here, which Tiffany, if you would like to pop those into the chat, These are some 2019 media kits, which have good examples of those. But we have a place in our proposal template today for that information. And then again, you're different. So some ideas for what makes you different. It could be your focus on clients and your guidance towards success. It could be the actual products that you offer. So a lot of Broadstreet customers do this. They say, hey, nobody has that amazing cube. Nobody has that billboard. Nobody's offering that sticky note. They'll put something in there that they know their advertiser is probably going to be interested in working with. Your willingness to help them get their message out, the fact that you've been around for a long time, that you're not a here today, gone tomorrow type of publisher or business, that again, especially if you bring that personality out, that you're well known in the town or your space. Campaign performance, if you can speak to the fact that your campaigns will typically perform X% higher than if you had worked somewhere else. So for example, the internet average click-through rate is like 0.06%. Now, most Broadstreet customers get a click-through rate that's much, much higher than that, at minimum 0.1%, but usually 0.2, 0.3, sometimes 0.5%. So now you're looking at almost 5 to 10x the performance. And then again, just bringing that personality out, your role within the community, put a light on that. So we're going to review our clients' needs, remark on each and what our kind of solution to that problem is. So we have a page in our proposal for that. And then our process. So again, clearing the fog, laying out exactly what's going to happen once they say yes. So once you say yes, my process is, first we'll do it could be a needs assessment. We put together that service proposal. We, take that first payment, which might be, 50%, whatever the terms are. And you just walk through the different things that you're going to do. So you want to lay that out, put it to a little timeline. So they know that if they work with you within 2 to 3 weeks, these are all the things that are going to take place, and I'm going to be running a successful campaign. And then your proposed packages. So there's a little bit of a debate around this. Do you want to just put one suggested package in your proposal? Do you want to put 2 to 3 options? That's another school entirely. So people say, hey, at least put 3 options for kind of like a low, medium, high package. And what me and Annette discussed last time is that maybe we'll have a high impact for somebody who wants to make a splash, somebody who, who wants a longer term campaign, is looking to work for like 6 or 12 months off the bat. We'll have an option for that. And then also a short-term campaign. So maybe somebody who's not really ready to go long-term or make a big splash. What's, a 1, 2, 4 week campaign or 3-month campaign? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. And speaking to that, sometimes the client doesn't know exactly what they want to do. And so I do like to offer them, if they're uncertain, 2 or 3 options. And I said, as a matter of fact, sometimes they're interchangeable. I mean, you can go combine a short term with a high impact with a long term for a general, package, take elements of each. The other thing is if they know what they want and they've asked for a specific quote on specific items, then you only really need to give them that one option. But I always like to add, added value items. So if they want to enhance it, okay, here's what you asked for. If you want to do a little more, this is what I'd suggest. And this is how it would impact the campaign in a positive way.
Perfect.
Not always upsell.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we move into the terms, so that legalese. So we have some like general agreement terms that we put at the end of the agreement. If you want that, you can leave that in the proposal. You can take it out, but it's there if you'd like it. So let's take a look at the proposal piece. So this, if you would like a copy of the proposal template, go to broadstreetads.com, add-sales-6-proposal. Let's pop into that right now and see what it looks like.